Deficiencies. We see deficiencies all around us. If your work product on Monday is not too fantastic and you realize that you stayed up real late on Sunday night, well, it's easy to conclude that you possibly have a deficiency in sleep. If a basketball player is not as good as the other players on the team or possibly their competition, well, you can easily draw a conclusion that they have a deficiency in their practice or deficiency in their skills. When I'm interviewing a trainer, seeing whether or not they're a good fit for our team and asking them questions, I can find if they have a deficiency in their education or maybe their experience in working with people. We see deficiencies day in and day out as personal trainers. But what if the deficiency you're experiencing, that you're associating with time passing on a calendar, is actually due to the lack of one simple nutrient, which could completely prevent or cure or even reverse the effects that you're having because of that deficiency? Which begs the question, is the deficiency you're experiencing in your own ability due to age, or is it protein? Today on the Personal Age Fitness Podcast. Good day and welcome to the Personal Age Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson. I'm president of Personal Age Fitness and host of the Personal Age Fitness Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Continuing on with our series on Is It Age? And today we're tackling, I think I may have added another syllable in there. Today we're tackling deficiencies in protein that we associate with age. And if you have any questions about this podcast or any others, or if you're having challenges understanding what I mean about the fact that there is no truth to the thought process that time passing on a calendar actually causes deterioration, or if you have any questions that may help you dispel the myths of health, fitness, and wellness, please contact us at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at garrett@personalagefitness.com. That, of course, is my email address. That's also our website, personalagefitness.com, and also our Facebook page, Personal Age Fitness. Hit me up on Twitter at TeamPE if you are so inclined. This is one of the big three. Now, I've started this series on is it age, or is it, to try to attack all those but what abouts that I hear, because I've told you many times that the ridiculous concept that time passing on a calendar causes deterioration is an absolute lie. Anybody saying that is lying to you. Anybody that says that is a liar, and I mean that, and that's why I say it so many times. Your ability is dictated by four things, which are fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, and mindset, and all four of those are 100% controllable, 100% your responsibility, 100% your fault. But the neat thing about that is that you have control. And I've also done a podcast on this, on the true fountain of youth. And I mean the true fountain of youth. Not just that's a neat saying, it's a great sales tactic to try to get you to tune in because I'm talking about the fountain of youth. But the true fountain of youth. I want to live a long time, and I want to be viable, and I don't want to lose ability to three things. Three things that are very simple. Fitness, full body fitness, most days of the week. Water, not just some, not just all I drink is water, 100 ounces a day, every single day, for all of your life, every day of your life. And the third, which we're going to talk about today, which is protein. And what is protein? Well, protein is a nutrient that basically is the building blocks of life. Protein serves numerous essential functions in the human body. Tissue repair, immune function, enzyme production, hormone regulation, and of course, most importantly in my book, maintaining, not just building, but maintaining muscle mass. Protein is especially crucial during periods of growth. Obviously, if you're going to grow, you're going to need protein, such as childhood, adolescence. You definitely need protein, but its importance never wanes. It never wanes as time passes on the calendar, nor does it change in your need for it. Excuse me. And what I mean by that is too many times you hear that, when you get older, you need more protein. No, you need that same amount of protein that you figure it out the same way. We're going to talk about that in the conclusion of this. You use the same equation to equate your needs for protein, and that equation doesn't change from the cradle to the grave. So it's an essential building block. Now, let me break this down to you. I've talked about this before, but as personal trainers, as physical therapists, anybody working with any kind of exercises, what have you, physical exercise, then those individuals, or when you're doing any kind of exercise, you're not building anything. Believe it or not, you're not even really directly maintaining something, maintaining fitness, maintaining your muscle development or muscle mass. You're actually breaking it down. You're intentionally breaking it down. That's what we want to do. The body's the most intelligent machine in the world, and so we know that it can repair itself, which is what exercise is based on. Is based on that truth, that law, that not a theory, not a hypothesis. We know for a fact that you break down muscle tissue, it rebuilds, and it rebuilds stronger if it has the tools to rebuild. So as personal trainers, we are breaking down muscle tissue in order for your body to build it back. But the key there is first calories, and second, you've got to have protein. You've got to have the right amount of protein. And we see this tremendously with our senior population. And I've talked about this before. We're going to go through a little bit of this. I've talked about sarcopenic obesity and the sarcopenia. I've also spoken about that and giving you the definition of it, which basically roughly means that it's losing muscle mass as time passes on a calendar. Now, many times the definition of sarcopenia includes the words that state that it is an actual function of time passing on a calendar. It's not. There's not one clinical study that proves that. One of the main reasons we see it is lifestyle changes and that correspond with nutritional changes. And typically, it's a reduction of calories and definitely a reduction of protein. And because of that, sarcopenia is a loss of muscle mass. And so we begin to lose muscle mass as time passes on a calendar, which has nothing to do with time passing on a calendar. As our lifestyle changes, kids leave the home, the first thing that we want to do is we want to simplify our life. And that affects every aspect of our life, including, and most importantly, it affects your nutrition. Because the first thing that is typically cut out of a diet is the thing that's hardest to maintain, that's more expensive, doesn't last very long, has to be preserved, a lot of money involved in preserving it, and that is protein. And so too many times it's ditched. You know, Larry and I, the kids are out of the house. We're not making those big meals anymore. So, we're just have a salad for dinner, and it doesn't have any kind of protein in it. Or I'm just going to have cereal. Or whatever other nutrient or other meal that you have that doesn't have protein in it, that is simplified. As lifestyles change, we make those changes to our nutrition. And this is why we see a degeneration of muscle as time passes on a calendar that has nothing to do with time passing on a calendar. As I've said with each one of these podcasts on this particular series, I've said in multiple podcasts, there's not one study. There's not one study on the face of the earth that proves that time passing on a calendar actually causes the deterioration. Now, I don't talk about anything like this without giving you some clinical proof. And the reason I use clinical proof so much is, one thing, it backs me up. The second thing is that the argument against the fact that against what I call the live age, the argument against it, people that say that no, time passing on a calendar actually causes deterioration, they have no clinical studies to back that up. So I want to make sure that I'm not being a hypocrite and let you know that we've got plenty of studies that back this up. I'm reading some of this, of course, so pardon me. There are so many studies about this. If you were to Google that topic, Google the topic of what causes lack of ability, nutritional changes that cause lack of ability, exercise changes that cause lack of ability, lifestyle changes that cause lack of ability, you're going to come up with a copious amount of studies. Even one small, minute part of what I'm talking about today, I had 4 pages on Google on studies that I was looking at on this particular subject. But one of the studies that talks about it was a study. It was called Protein Intake and Physical Function in Aging, subtitled The Health ABC Study. Now, this Health ABC study was published in the Journals of Gerontology series, and this is back in 2013. It was conducted by the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle, Washington. A very interesting study. I would say that it was comprehensive. Let me give you the numbers about this, because I can't stand a study that they don't tell you that it's observational, they don't tell you that a small group was used, that it wasn't a control versus a variable. I want you to know the details of these studies, because I always like to use one that have quite a bit of substance to them. This study had 2,986 people, over 2,900, almost 3,000 people involved in this study. Well, they must not have studied the right ages. Well, the participants were aged 70 to 79. That should cover enough of the elderly question, the age population question. Were the people really older? And did it go on long enough? Only went on for 6 months or whatever. Well, no, actually it was studied from 1987 to 1998. So this is a very comprehensive study. What did they find? The Health ABC study explored the relationship between protein intake and physical function in these 2,986 adults. The results indicated that higher protein intake, now hold on to that thought, because when I say higher protein intake, that's a comparison. That's a comparison to what the norms are typically seen in that population. And I would call it a normal intake of protein. That the protein intake was associated with better physical function, including walking speed and muscle strength. Conversely, those with lower protein intake were more likely to experience physical deficits typically seen in aging. Wow, what a surprise. There's a direct correlation between lack of protein and physical function. Here's another one. The study is called Sarcopenia and Its Potential Effects on the Elderly, a focus on protein intake. This study focused on sarcopenia. In fact, I cannot stand that word. The reason I can't stand that word, it's a made-up affliction. It is a made-up affliction. Unless they describe sarcopenia as the reduction of muscle mass, the reduction of muscle function associated with time passing on a calendar that is completely caused by us, then I would believe the word sarcopenia. Until then, trying to say that sarcopenia is this thing that just automatically happens to you, that's absurd. Because if it were true, then they could tell you it's going to happen to you on this date. And they can't tell you that. The study focuses on the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. The researchers found that inadequate protein intake contributed significantly to the development and progression of sarcopenia. Maintaining adequate protein intake was identified as a crucial factor in mitigating physical deficits associated with aging. Now, how does that work? Why do I keep saying protein, muscle, and protein, muscle, protein, muscle? Okay, I've said this before, but you begin to atrophy muscle 72 hours after a workout. Now, why is that? Well, I don't work out. Well, if you walk to the mailbox, you've done a workout. If you get up and move around, you do any kind of movement, even your heart beating, that's a workout. And so you begin to atrophy muscle 72 hours after you've left that muscle basically dormant. Haven't done anything with your shoulders, haven't done any good chest work or whatever. Well, that muscle has become dormant, and after 72 hours, it starts to atrophy. Well, what is atrophy? Well, it's your body's automatic way of breaking down that muscle tissue and using it for energy. Now, that's usually not included in the definition of atrophy, but it's true. Your muscle doesn't just get rid of it because it's fighting you. It breaks it down because muscle is a fantastic energy source for the body. If you're not going to give it something else, it's going to break down muscle tissue, and it's going to take anything extra that it gets through calories and store it as fat, because your body's first job is to keep the body moving. And so it's going to break that muscle down, and it's going to use it for energy, and boom, you've lost muscle mass. So, well, how do you keep it maintained? Well, obviously, breaking it down, exercising, doing the workout itself. But then, and this is when you grow. As I said earlier, you're not growing, you're not building, you're not even maintaining anything in an exercise program. You're just breaking it down. At rest, after you've given it enough calories to sustain energy, to sustain life for the body is going to start actually literally taking off the frayed pieces of muscle, because when you're exercising, you're breaking down muscle tissue, and it's going to rejoin. It's going to make it stronger. It's going to build it back, and your body's intelligent. Your body looks at it like the Three Little Pigs story. You know, that muscle got torn down, and it was basically, figuratively, of course, built out of straw. So we're going to make it stronger. We're going to build it out of wood this time. Gets broken down again, we're going to go with brick or steel or something like that. It's going to make it stronger. It realizes that you gave it a challenge. It wasn't up to the challenge. Can the body build the body back to meet the challenge? Yes, it can. And what is the building blocks for muscle? You cannot make muscle without protein. And believe it or not, you can't build back muscle without the right type of protein. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not against a vegetarian diet. That is a life choice, and for a myriad of reasons. And I'm not worried about the reasons. But it is a choice, and there's nothing wrong with the vegetarian diet. But you have to understand that vegetables typically lack, individually, they typically lack some amino acid needed for muscle development. And those amino acids are found in protein, but all protein is not created equal. For instance, leucine. It's a branched chain amino acid, BCAA. You've seen that word before, that acronym before, that activates what they call the mTOR pathway. It's a crucial signaling pathway that stimulates muscle protein synthesis. In other words, making protein into muscle. It plays a central role in promoting growth and recovery. Another one is, I don't know if I'm saying this right, isoleucine. And it's another BCAA. It supports energy production, aids in protein synthesis. Another is the valine. And it's the third BCAA, and it's involved in muscle metabolism and tissue repair. So you've got leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Now I'll show you some limitations in a plant-based diet or a vegetarian-based diet. And that is that many of the different vegetables by themselves don't contain all three of these amino acids. For example, grains. Grains are although they may have protein in them, they're low in lysine, very low in lysine. While legumes, probably have heard of legumes. Legumes are basically beans. Are deficient in isoleucine. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm having to read this from my notes because there's several different there's several words I want to make sure I don't get wrong. Therefore, individuals that are relying on a strictly a vegetarian diet. Again, I'm not against it, but you need to do your reading. You need to do your studying, because you've got to have to have these different vegetables in your diet to get all the amino acids together. You can't just have them throughout the day. In other words, I'll have one in the morning, then I'll have one in the afternoon, and one in the evening, and I'll get all my amino acids. No, you have to have all of them represented in your meal. So breakfast, you need all three. In lunch, you need all three. In dinner, you need all three. If not, you can say you check the protein box, but you're not going to maintain muscle. So the reason I tell you, if you do choose to have a vegetarian diet, again, not against it, either do your reading, or if you want to simplify it. The difference between vegetable and animal-based protein has all the amino acids you need. Chicken has it, fish has it, beef has it, pork has it. They have the meat, yogurt has it, anything that comes from anything with a face. They have all the amino acids in that particular food source. So if you're going to choose a vegetarian diet, then I highly recommend, if you don't do your reading, or if that's too much work to make sure you have those all the different meals, supplement it. There are tons of vegetable-based supplements for protein that actually have these amino acids added to it. And so you can stay in line with your what is in your heart to have you do a vegetable-based diet, and still get all the different proteins that you need. It saddens me with the senior market that we see. Too many times I'm looking at individuals that are coming to us for help. They want to do exercise, and as I've said many times before, that generation, whether it's boomers or the oldest of the Gen Xers, they typically have a very good work ethic. So their answer in exercise is to work harder. And answer anytime that anything is deficient is to work harder. So getting them to exercise is not difficult. But their knowledge base of nutrition is based on what I call live food, a lie that started in 1953. And so when their mental state when it comes to nutrition, the answer is always cut out or reduce. And so also, if you add that lifestyle component to it, I was telling you a minute ago that when you get to be a certain age, a certain part of your lifestyle where kids have left the house, you're trying to simplify things, typically we're typically going to get rid of that protein. And too many times I see clients that come in here and are willing to do the work, but I cannot convince them to, hey, we've got enough of the calories, we've got enough protein. And because of the lie of age, they believe that this automatically cannot happen for them because of their time on the calendar, because somebody has lied to them. A health professional, most likely, has lied to them by telling them that you have this number, therefore you can't, and that is a lie. Not only when you correct, if it is a protein deficiency, when you correct it, you can cure those physical problems and even reverse them. So it's not age. Quite possibly, it's lack of protein. Listen, if you have any questions about this, please reach out to me. Even if you want to argue with me about it, more than glad to get into a conversation. Anything that I can to either correct me, which has been tried several times as far as this point is concerned. Trust me, you can ask my wife; she'll tell you I'm wrong all the time, but not on this point. But on this point, look, if I'm wrong, I want to make sure I go and correct it. But if you have challenges about it, please contact me at 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach out to me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. Personaledgefitness.com is our website, our Facebook page, and if you'd like to, hit me up on Twitter at TeamPE. The last thing I want you to do is to miss out on one of the 3 pillars of the Fountain of Youth, because making sure you hit all 3 of those pillars and making sure you have the right amount, making sure you're doing it correctly, and making sure you're not lacking in anything and causing deficiency is just one more way we help you reach your level of wellness. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope to see you next time.